is not only a time, life, national geophotographer in his own right, but he's a man who organizes large-scale photography projects, in fact, projects on a massive scale. He's the day in the life guy. I'm sure you've seen the books, Day in the Life of Vietnam. I think that was one of the first. Day in the Life of Cyberspace. He's now working on a day in the life of being 16 in America. Hi, Rick.
In 1974, Popular Photography ran an article saying that Life magazine was going to do a project called A Day in the Life of America. One Day in the Life of America. And I was still at college. One of my friends showed me this and said, you should go up to Life magazine and see if you can work on it. They're going to hire 100 photographers, and on one day they're going to photograph all over America. So I got on a train, I went up to New York City, no appointment. I went to the reception area at Life magazine, said I wanted to see the photo editor, had my yearbook under my arm, and of course was asked, do you have an appointment? I said no. And this woman looked at me like I was from Mars and said, son, or sonny, there's no way you can see the editor of Life magazine without an appointment, and who do you think you are? And I said, gee, I'm sorry. And I kind of started walking out of the building and feeling slightly humiliated. And I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt because I had gotten really dressed up for this. As I walked out of the building, I saw these guys my age, early 21, 22, walking in, jeans, t-shirts, carrying brown manila packages that they were delivering to people. I thought, if I was watching a movie, what would the hero do? So I took my yearbook, I went around the corner, I wrapped it up in brown paper, came back in the building, went to the same freight elevator as all the other guys. I went upstairs, got to another receptionist, and this guy standing next to me, and I've got my yearbook, and I'm shaking. This guy is standing there waiting for her to get off the phone. He says, hey kid, what do you got? I said, it's my yearbook. And he said, and? He said, well, I'm trying to see. I said, I came all the way here from my college, and I'm trying to work on this Day in the Life project, and nobody here will even talk to me. And he sort of said, calm down, calm down. He said, let me look at your yearbook. So I showed it to him, and he said, these are really good photographs. I said, thank you. He said, do you mind waiting here for a second? He said, let me go talk to John Loengard. Long story short, I ended up seeing John Loengard, and he said, look, we've already hired the 99 photographers that we're going to hire for this. If you want to take some pictures and send them in. And I remember thinking, this is going to be my only shot at this. And I said, Mr. Loengard, I don't mean to be aggressive or obnoxious or anything, but my whole life since I was a little kid, I wanted to work for Life magazine. And I said I would do anything to actually be one of the 100 photographers working on this. Actually, 99 is what he'd said. And he stared at me, and I remember he just stared and stared. And this little smile started at the corner of his mouth. And he said, well, I guess it wouldn't financially bankrupt Time Life if we made it 100 instead of 99. So, long story short, I got hired, I got back to my college, and I realized he hadn't told me what to shoot, and I hadn't asked. And I was too embarrassed to call, so I decided I would do sort of a day in the life of college life in America. This was the beginning of school, September 4th, the first week of school, and there was some freshmen sitting under a tree, and I said, can I take a picture? And I explained what I was doing, and one of the girls said, why don't you come to our house tonight for dinner, and you can take pictures of us living off campus. So I went to their house. This was 1974. Everybody got very stoned at dinner, and the girl said, we have a tradition in our house. When it's someone's birthday, we all take off our clothes, we take showers together upstairs. And she said, it's not your birthday, but because it's so exciting that you're working for Life magazine, we've all talked about this. And I was 23 at this point. I was feeling really old. This girl's like 19 or something. And so I took all these pictures thinking, there's no way I'm sending this to Life magazine. They're going to think I'm, Next morning, I totally forgot to unload one of the cameras. I'd taken the film out of the other ones, and so I sent all my film off to Life, and I had this mental picture of all the great photographs I'd shot, and the editor called 2 days later and said, congratulations, you have 2 photographs in this special issue, and one is a plate of food at the bottom of a prison door. I just went to the local jail. And the other is this wonderful couple taking a shower together in the morning before going to school. He said, it was the morning, right, because we're going to be laying it out. And it's definitely it was the morning, definitely, absolutely. So when the issue came out, the first person to call me was my mother, who was just thrilled beyond belief at this picture of the food at the bottom of the prison door. She hadn't gone through the whole issue yet. And the other was from the president of Dickinson College, who was calling to talk to me about what I had done at their fundraising efforts for the year. And he was getting calls from every parent in the entire country who had sent their daughters to school at Dickinson College. I ended up being hired by Time magazine about 6 months later based on my yearbook. And I was sent out to Southeast Asia. I spent about 5 years working for Time. I shot a lot of cover stories for them. I was doing at 26 what I thought I'd be doing by the time I was 50. And I wasn't jaded, but I kept wanting to do something more. And so one day we're sitting around a bar in Bangkok with a hero of mine, Philip Jones Griffiths. And I said, Philip, I would love to invite you and all my other, older photographers, people I really admire, that I grew up admiring, and my peers and some young photographers, take them to a country like Australia, spread them around the country, just like the Life magazine issue had been. But I want to get everybody together first, because I hadn't met the other 100 photographers working on A Day in the Life of America. And I said, we could spread out all over Australia, where I was living at the time, and say, on your mark, get set, go. What would happen? So I went to 35 publishers all over the world, and I got laughed out of their offices. We self-published, A Day in the Life of Australia, and in a country where 5,000 books was a bestseller, we sold 250,000 copies. It was the #1 book in Australia. I thought I'd go back to being a photographer. It never happened. We got called by the governor of Hawaii, who said, our anniversary of statehood is coming up, could you do us? Then I was called by a friend of mine at Petro-Canada here in Canada, a guy named Bill Simpkins, who said, you should come and do A Day in the Life of Canada. American Express called and said, would you come and do Japan, because we're fighting with the JCB card. The one thing that I was really proud of is that we never put products in the book. We never snuck pictures into the backgrounds. The one thing I told all the sponsors is that the one thing I can guarantee you is that if you sponsor our book, anything with your photograph of your product in it, we will take out of the book. Because the moment you do that, then you've lost all the credibility of it. Well, many, many years later, after 9/11, my partner David Cohen and I were talking a few years ago and saying, first of all, we were kind of appalled at the way that the world, that Hollywood, the government, and Madison Avenue were portraying America to the world. It certainly wasn't the way that most Americans would be sitting down and telling you what our country was like. And we thought, how many of you here have a cell phone with a camera in it? Just curious. Okay, about a third of the audience. Well, in 2 years, you won't be able to buy a cell phone without a camera in it. We started realizing that in 2003 was the first year in history that digital cameras outsold film cameras. In 2004, cell phone cameras outsold digital cameras. You know who the #1 manufacturer of digital cameras in the world is today? It's Nokia. They're the largest manufacturer of cameras in the world today. So we thought, why don't we do another look at America, but this time, instead of just professional photographers, why don't we open this up to anybody? Because of the internet and digital photography, we actually have the ability to solicit and look at and view the work of soccer moms and students and grandparents along with professional photographers.
America 24/7, a collection of digital photographs taken around the country over the course of 1 week. From May 12th to the 18th, 1,000 professional photographers and 25,000 amateurs stopped, looked, and clicked.
And what made this book unusual is that you can actually put your own photographs on the cover of the book. 80,000 people have made their own covers now, so 1 out of every 5 people buying these books. I thought that was by far the most original use of our book. This guy proposed to his girlfriend with a copy of the book. I thought that was probably the ultimate. So we're going to be doing a book about teenagers either this fall or next spring all over America, and I'm hoping, actually, now that I've been up here this week, I'd love to sit down and talk to Moses and maybe some of you about doing Canada 24/7 next, because I think the world needs to know how unique and special Canada is. So, thank you very much.